Before the success stories, the progress, there was you. You who made a choice to grow, to inspire, to overcome your own challenges. At NASM, we're in service of your limitless potential because when you keep growing, we all get stronger, and we'll never stop making your journey our mission. Join the fitness leader. Become a fitness leader. Become a certified personal trainer.
You're listening to the NASM-CPT Podcast with Richey, winner of the Share Care Emmy Award for Social Storytelling and the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the NASM-CPT Podcast. My name is Richey, and today we're going to talk about strength endurance. That's phase 2 of the NASM OPT model. The OPT model is really our way of programming. That's what we do at the NASM, and we try to share that so that you have a guide on evidence-based program design. Now, I'm going to say this. A few weeks ago, maybe months at this point, because it's hard to keep up, I did one on phase 1 of the NASM OPT model. That's stabilization endurance. And at the end of it, I said, if you listen to this and you found this helpful and you want a copy of this workout that I'm going to have my client Terry do tomorrow morning, then hit me up. I've had more people hit me up for that sample phase 1, the stabilization endurance workout, than any other podcast that I've ever sent out, I've ever done where I've gotten responses from people. I had so many people reach out about that particular episode because you wanted that sample workout. Well, I thought, I got so many people reaching out about the sample workout for stabilization endurance. Let's keep going. NASM OPT model phase 2, we've got strength endurance. So from stabilization endurance to strength endurance, this is a sample workout that I'm going to take you through today. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to warm up, and that could be foam rolling. We talked about, I kind of went only into the resistance training portion for that stabilization endurance workout. So I can't tell you really what to foam roll because I don't know what your clients need to foam roll. General rules, I'm always like, all right, calves, TFL, lats. I think that's a good connector series that if you wanted to put together, you could put that together. Great foam rolling alternatives that or options that you could put out there. But the difference when you go into flexibility training, we do foam rolling in both of those. So whether you're stabilization or strength level, but the difference here is when you do flexibility, we aren't doing static stretching as part of our warm up because we are not finding as many, I assume, once we get to the strength level. We've already addressed the short, tight, overactive muscles. Now we're trying to give muscles strength. We are trying to add strength to our flexibility, and that's where active flexibility comes in. So these active stretches, you're going to hold them for 1 to 2 seconds and then move out of them. You're going to use, if you're doing a hip flexor stretch, you'll use your glute to hip drive forward, and that facilitates the stretch. And we're not holding it, stabilizing it, keeping it for 30 seconds. It's just 1, 2, sit back, hip drive again, 1, 2, sit back, hip drive again, and that is our active stretches. Now, you could also add in your cardio, and the cardio is not necessarily the same as the OPT model when it comes to resistance training. So we don't have a progression of cardio that follows the progression of resistance training like you see in the OPT model, but we do follow a model. So here we can go and start working ourselves into the ventilatory threshold 2. We can start pushing ourselves into more anaerobic work. So with that warm up kind of put to the side, and even looking at cardio, it's not a specific warm up, but the foam rolling and active are specific. Then we get into the core exercises. Now, the core exercises in the strength level of the OPT model is going to include movement of the spine through all phases of the muscle action spectrum. So it's going to have an eccentric component, isometric component, concentric component, If any of those you could leave out, you might want to remove the isometric component, because that's basically all stabilization endurance was for the core. Now we're adding eccentric and concentric. We're adding movement as opposed to little to no movement of the spine. We are now moving the spine, and we're moving it through the entire muscle action spectrum. So examples of this in this sample workout are going to be crunches, oblique crunches, and hanging knee raises. But in the hanging knee raises, you have to make sure that it is not just your knees coming up, but is that you are reverse crunching. You are getting a flexion of the spine, and it's not just flexion of the hip. All right, so if I've got this, and you can have your arguments. Oh, what about the hip flexors? What? I don't know about the hip flexors. It's a sample program. I haven't defined anybody's hip flexors. So you think they might be tight, then don't do that exercise. You think it's not good for their low back, then that's not the exercise to choose. That's how sample workouts work. You put together samples and then you get to pick it. And if it doesn't work for you or your client, then you do not keep it. Same thing can be said for the crunches. I don't like crunches for my client's back. Well, don't do crunches. Come over and start hitting me up and saying, I can't believe you did hanging knee raises. Why? You don't know my client and you don't know me. I like doing hanging knee raises. I used to be super anti hanging knee raises because I kind of fell into that trap of hip flexors are probably tight based off of no assessment, just the assumption that hip flexors are tight. And then I didn't do anything that worked a hip flexor, as if the muscle was not worth exercising. And it's weird because we could say that about, they have tight hamstrings, and then you have them do deadlifts, and we find that actually can increase the flexibility in hamstrings. So the exercise also can benefit the tightness. Strange. I mean, obviously it's a loaded stretch, but let's not get carried away with finding caveats. It's a sample. So moving the core, crunches, oblique crunches, hanging knee raises, where that hanging knee raise is really the legs involved with a reverse crunch. So if I'm hanging like the straps, so you put your elbows, your upper arms into the straps, I like to see if I can get knees, or get my clients to get their knees to touch their elbows. Clearly, I just had a delivery. So see if I can get them up to touch the elbows. Balance then is the follow-up. So the balance exercises, so we're going to go core, balance, plyometric. Balance exercises are basically any standard leg exercise that you would do with resistance training and 2 legs, and you are going to do it without weight on 1 leg. So if you would do a traditional strength training exercise would be squats. Well, we shall now do single leg squats as our balance exercise for a warm-up, for our movement prep. Our balance exercise is a resistant exercise without actually loading. Another exercise could be RDLs, which are already mentioned. So now I've got it set up where we're doing a single leg squat, and you can do a single leg squat to a bench if you need to. Make sure that they feel comfortable doing the movement. The more challenge on the single leg, the more balance that they are going to try to employ. But then I follow it up with a single leg deadlift. So you're going to do squats on 1 leg, squats on the other leg, and then you can take a break. You can move right into it. Single leg RDLs, 1 leg, single leg RDLs on the other leg. And as soon as you're done, I'm like doing this without any breaks. So I'm not putting any breaks in any of these. The only breaks that you get are the transitions from one to the other, or unless you need it. And I will tell people, if you need a break, let me know. Otherwise, we're running this in circuit. So the next, we go from core, balance to plyometrics. And our plyometrics, when we did stabilization endurance, were a jump focusing on landing mechanics, and then you would hold that landing for 3 to 5 seconds. Well, now we've been done working on landing mechanics. We are now working on the jump. This has already got the landing mechanics down. So now we're focusing on force production, and we're going to repeat jumps. Now, this isn't a super plyometric. There's a power phase where it's touch and go, touch and go. This is a squat jump, right? So I'm going to go down into a squat, and then I'm going to jump back up. It's a nice moderate pace. It is not a touch and go movement. It is just repeating. So no pause at the bottom. And then I've got butt kicks, where you jump up and you try to take both of your legs and kick your own butt. I'm kicking my butt. And then tuck jumps. So I will say these are three plyometric exercises in a row. And yeah, you are probably going to want to take a break in between these. You may not need to. That's great. But a tuck jump, bringing the knees up to the chest as you jump up in the air and hugging the knees into the chest, kind of, if you can. If not, it's just trying to get your knees up as high as you can and going back down. That's it. Just doing it at a moderate tempo. It is not a race. It is getting the jumps, focusing on force production. Now, it doesn't mean don't focus on force reduction or landing, but that's what you've spent the last 4 weeks or so doing. That should already be part of your landing strategy. You've already got the landings down. So that's a plyometric portion. So now once you've gone through and done your warm-up, which can include foam rolling, active stretching, cardio, core, balance, plyometrics, those are 6 components to a workout. Then you finally get to the meat and taters of this workout, and that's going to be resistance training. Now, resistance training in the strength endurance world here is a superset. And the way that we use superset is one exercise followed by a mechanically or biomechanically similar endurance exercise. So a traditional strength training exercise with a similar stabilization exercise, 8 to 12 reps each. So what we're going to do is we're going to break everything up into components, and we're going to go legs, and then we're going to do a push, and then we're going to do more legs, and then we're going to do pull, and then we're going to do a cardio, and then we're going to do another upper body. So here's what it looks like. By the way, this is the way that's set up is PHA workouts of peripheral heart action, where we're doing lower body, upper body, lower body, upper body. So the first thing you're going to do are legs. So the legs, you're looking at a squatting pattern. So I have a barbell back squat supersetted with a single leg goblet squat to a bench. So barbell back squat, 8 to 12 repetitions at a moderate tempo, nice and controlled. So that might be like a 2-0-2 tempo, lowering down with the barbell on your back, coming back up, 8 to 12 repetitions. As soon as you're done, you put the barbell down, you go over, you grab a dumbbell or a kettlebell, you put it in a goblet position, so both hands underneath it in front of your chest. So it's just one kettlebell or one dumbbell holding in front of your chest. A leg comes up, you have a seat to a bench, and then stand back up. Now, if the bench is too deep, then you can do something by put a Eric's pad on top of it, 2 Eric's pads on top of it, some type of, an ab mat, some type of something that you don't have to go all the way down to the bench. They tap their butt and they stand back up. So my preference is you do a little butt tap and then rise up, rather than have a seat all the way and then swing with momentum to get your body to come off of the bench. Now, that's not necessarily wrong. That's actually a strategy that could be employed for people that are having a hard time, where they get the full eccentric down and they use a bit of momentum, a little lean back, and then leaning forward to build momentum to stand up. So it is an option, but certainly I like them to be able to be done as strictly and nicely as possible when you can. You may not be able to do that now, but when you're able to, that's what would be pretty amazing to see. So it's a barbell back squat, superset, single leg goblet squat to a bench. By the way, notice what I chose to do for the balance exercise was a single leg squat or a single leg goblet squat or a single leg squat to a bench. Ends up that my stabilization, my strength endurance, where it's a strength exercise, my traditional strength exercise supersetted with a stabilization exercise. And that stabilization exercise is real similar to that balance exercise that I've already prepped. Think about it. Smart programming. Think about what that was and how you set up your programs. So the next thing we're going to move to is a pushing exercise. So let's just go traditional pushing strength exercise, which would be a barbell bench press. A barbell bench press, great. So what's our superset? Well, here's what I like. I like just keep you on the bench, But now just slide out of the way so that you don't bump the dumbbell. And you're going to do a one arm dumbbell chest press, a single arm dumbbell chest press. So you're going to single arm dumbbell chest press on one side where you have to stabilize. The more stabilization that you can manage out of this, the nicer it can be. But it's also an endurance exercise. So all you're doing is adding more weight to one side. You're going to do your reps on one side, switch it over, do your reps on the other side. If you want to work stabilization more, if your feet are wide, move them more narrow, or put them together. If you want to work your stabilization throughout your core and your upper body even more. So you're going to now take your feet off of the floor and just have them up. So your hips and knees are at 90-90 position, elevated off the floor. And you have to try to stabilize that with your core. That makes that very difficult. Now, I will say that I got a message from somebody and it said, and it was a while ago, and I just happened to go across it as I was looking through this programming. It said, I've seen a lot of exercises or examples of a strength endurance workout for pushing, like a barbell bench press supersetted with push-ups. And they said, the only examples I ever see are examples of a traditional exercise supersetted with push-ups. So can you give another example of what that looks like? So I will take thee at thy word, and I will provide you with some information here. So my example that I gave here off the jump was a single arm dumbbell chest press. But let's go into, here's some other options. A cable chest press, a one arm cable chest press, a one leg cable chest press, a one arm dumbbell fly, a one arm cable fly, hands on a bench or a ball push-up, feet on a bench or a ball push-up, hip bridge dumbbell chest press. So you go into a hip bridge position on the floor, and you can do a dumbbell chest press. Or I like this one, you do the hip bridge where a bench is behind you and you lift up into your bridge position, and you do a dumbbell chest press from there. And then you can do that same hip bridge, one arm dumbbell chest press, and you can do that same bridge and you can do a one leg or one arm dumbbell chest press. And then I thought maybe that was a good enough series of examples where you can take those examples and then say, okay, let me start coming up with my own. But I wanted to knock out about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 samples of what it is that you could do after you do that barbell bench press. But it doesn't have to be barbell bench press, right? It could be dumbbell chest press, any traditional strength training chest exercise, machine chest press, a converging chest press on a machine that has a cam where you can make it harder in the beginning of the press or harder at the end of the press. It's just whatever you got for your traditional, and then you superset it with your creativity on that stabilization endurance. All right, so that's a push exercise. So we're going back to legs. So we did legs, push. We're going to go legs, and then we're going to do a pull. So here's our legs hinge. So we did a push for the first one. We're doing a hinge for the next one. So we're going to go into RDLs, and you can do dumbbell RDLs, you can do barbell RDLs, you can do kettlebell RDLs, you can do loaded band RDLs if you have strong enough bands and, I don't know, fingers to do that. Also, note that we're going to do a single leg, opposite arm dumbbell RDL. And the reason we do that is you can do two arms, where you're holding dumbbells in each arm and do a single leg. I just have this like opposite arm and leg dumbbell RDL. So let's say you're holding a 25-pound dumbbell in your right hand, you're standing on your left leg, and you're doing your RDLs there. And again, my balance exercise in the beginning was an RDL. So if I'm going to do two leg exercises, you could probably bet that that second exercise, if my second balance was an RDL, then my second exercise might be an RDL for my legs, simply because I like to do things for my balance training that are going to prepare me for my resistance training. And that was a very specific preparation. Again, smart programming, using your programming and make it make sense. So RDLs superset with a barbell Romanian deadlift. All right, cool. So now to the next superset. The next superset, another strength exercise, traditional strength training exercise, superset with a stabilization equivalent. It used to be, by the way, it used to be called stabilization equivalent training. So you would do a traditional exercise and the stabilization equivalent. We are still doing that, but we're calling it strength endurance. We're naming it after the benefits you're going to get, not after the exercise type you're doing. So the benefit of this training, what you get out of it, is strength and endurance. So what we're doing here is we're named all the phases in the OPT model and all the levels in the OPT model are named after the benefit that you will be getting. So I like that they changed that. They changed that like 15 years ago. It's not a new change, but it was definitely something for us as we were teaching, something to get used to. So our pulling exercise. So we're going from leg squat, upper body push, leg hinge, upper body pull. So we're going to do a back exercise. So we're going to do lat pull downs. Let's go standard, traditional, standard issue exercise. But our superset is a standing single leg lat sweep. So I'm standing now on one leg. You could probably even use the same bar that you did the lat pull downs with. Just make it lighter, stand up, stand on a single leg, both arms go up, and sweep that bar down onto your thighs. It is a great follow-up lat exercise. It is a great core exercise, like an abdominal stabilization exercise. And then the follow-up is also doing it on a single leg, which adds more instability. It is not required. In fact, a lot of times I just have people do two legs, but I programmed it with a single leg lat sweep. So a standing single leg lat sweep as your stabilization follow-up to your strength exercise. So traditional strength training exercise, lat pull down, superset with single leg lat sweep. All right, so after I have this, I've decided I've done upper body, lower body, lower body, and then I've got cardio. So the reason I like doing the upper body, lower body is peripheral heart action. You're shunting blood to upper body, shunting blood to lower body, back to upper body, to lower body. And then we're going to do cardio, and then just blood's going to go everywhere. Not like a Quentin Tarantino movie. It's going to stay in your body, but you're going to now get the blood really flowing within the pipes, within the plumbing inside. And I have us doing bike 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, 5 rounds. 5 rounds on the bike, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. You're like, oh, my client hates the bike. All right, do a ski erg. Oh, we don't have a ski erg. All right, we'll do a rower. Oh, we don't have a rower. Okay, all right, I see what you're saying. But you see what I'm saying? Just pick a cardio that you do have. We've got elliptical. That one's cool. That one's cool. You can do elliptical, 30 on, 30 off, 5 rounds, and find out what it measures. So on that, is it measuring distance? Is it measuring calories? Is it measuring watts? What are we looking at here? And so what I like to do is I'll put in distance, right? So for every 30 seconds, let's say that you did distance of I don't know, 150 meters, or let's say that you did 20 calories. I'm just going to mark down calories, and then I'll put 20 kcal, and then I'll hit enter, and I'll do my dash, and I'll say, okay, what was your calorie count after that? And of course, the goal is trying not to drop. Now, you're going to exhaust yourself on this. So your calorie count or your distance, whatever you're measuring in that 30 seconds, it's going to typically go down, especially the further you get into that 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, because it's a lot of high intensity work for the 30 seconds, and 30-second recovery is not very much. So you are training your endurance with how much you're doing your cardio. And then I have the last superset, which is going to be an upper body superset again. It is a seated dumbbell shoulder press. And you can have the backup for the seat. You can lean back into the back. You can use artificial stabilization with an upright seat to support you, and shoulder press. Immediately put those dumbbells down, stand up, single leg scaption. So standing single leg scaption. You can do 6 on one leg, 6 on the other leg, as long as you're getting your 8 to 12 for your upper body. Then that is your superset. Seated dumbbell shoulder press, supersetted with a single leg scaption exercise. And then you're going to cool it down. You can static stretch. You can focus on the stuff that you've already done and start to bring it down. So static stretching is good at the end of a workout, but when you get into the strength level, you wouldn't typically do it at the beginning of a workout unless there's a muscle group that is really significantly tight, and then it would be indicated to continue doing static stretching for whatever muscle that is. All right, cool. That's it. That's the workout. That's what Terry's going to do tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, that's what she's doing. Terry has progressed. You guys have seen her last stabilization workout, her stabilization endurance. Now she's moving into strength endurance. The workout's here. You guys, I just programmed Terry's workout and told you all about it. If you want a copy of it, hit me up. You can do so by hitting me up on Instagram at dr.rickrichey and just send me your email address, or you can email me, rick.richey@nasm.org. Y'all like, subscribe, share the podcast with your fitness friends and family, and also go in, if you enjoy the podcast, leave a 5-star review, but not just a review, win stars. I love the stars. Keep giving the stars, the 5 stars. But if you could leave a statement, because when people go to it, they want to hear what people have to say that listen to the podcast. You're fitness professionals. That's who we drive to this podcast. So say something. Say something about the podcast that you like and appreciate so that other people can see that, drives people to the podcast, and I would appreciate that. All right, y'all, keep inspiring people to fitness. Thanks for listening. This has been the NASM CPT Podcast.